Hello, and welcome to the Midnight Spook Show here on the Horror and Metal channel with your host, Hellhound. Today we're going to review The Monster Squad from 1987, directed by Fred Dekker. Now, when I think of really fun 80s movies that I know I'm going to have a blast with, two of the ones that come immediately to mind are Night of the Creeps and The Monster Squad, both of which are directed by Fred Dekker, and they're both loads of fun. Yeah, I love this movie. I'm not really a big fan of this cover, though. You know, the DVD cover. It's okay, but this one's way better. The VHS cover. VHS artwork looks way better. It's got that Vestron Video logo. I can't go wrong with that. And it's next rental from Blockbuster, too, so... Oh, yeah. Gotta love it. But yeah, basically, Monster Squad. You know who to call when you have ghosts, but who do you call when you have monsters? Call them for a monstrous good time. Yeah, so basically, as you probably know, I, of course, am a huge fan of the classic Universal monsters from, like, the 30s and 40s. Big fan of those movies, the old black and white Universal monster films, you know, Dracula, Frankenstein, all that. And basically, the only time we really saw, well, House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula featured Dracula, Frankenstein, and Wolfman, but they didn't really have much screen time together. Dracula didn't interact with the other two very much at all. Frankenstein and Wolfman were previously in Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman. Frankenstein's monster. You know what? They're both Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein and his creation, his monster, are both called Frankenstein. Dr. Frankenstein created a monster and named it after himself. They're both Frankenstein! Oh my gosh, it's a breakthrough! Okay, let's moving on. Rant aside, let's get on with it. I'm just going to call him Frankenstein, because saying Frankenstein's monster or the monster is just... sounds stupid. It's just a mouthful, because they're all monsters. Just calling him the monster is just dumb. Okay, rant over. Anyway, yeah, Dracula, Frankenstein. Oh, I didn't say Frankenstein's a monster. Oh no! Freaking mob with a bunch of torches are going to come after me, just like they did with Frankenstein. I did it again! No, but anyway, yeah, all three of them were in House of Frankenstein and House of Dracula, but they didn't interact very much. It wasn't until Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein that they actually had a lot of screen time together. Now, we never did see the Mummy with them, either Imhotep or Karis, either version of the Mummy. And so we didn't really see them all together until this movie, I believe. And so not only does it have Dracula, Frankenstein, a werewolf, which is basically the Wolfman. I don't think he's supposed to be Lawrence Talbot. I don't even think he's given a name. He's not supposed to be the same one from, you know, for the Universal movies, but close enough. He's a werewolf. A mummy, which isn't given a name either. I don't think it's supposed to be Karis, and it's certainly not Imhotep. And a Gillman, you know, creature from the Black Lagoon type thing. So this is the first time we saw all five of these monsters in a movie together. So basically, it's in the cast. Is a bunch of kids, starring kids. The Monster Squad. They're a group of horror film fanatics that hang out in a really awesome, cozy treehouse with horror movie posters and superhero comic book memorabilia everywhere, which is just awesome. These are my kinds of kids. I would have been friends with them, you know, for sure. Growing up, I had a lot of friends like them. Me and my friends had, you know, all kinds of cool adventures like they did. Well, not quite like they did, but, you know. And so basically it feels like the Goonies meets the classic monsters. And, you know, it's like the 80s version of all the classic monsters, which is something we hadn't gotten at this point, you know. Now I feel like they're trying, you know, they try to put all the classic monsters together a lot these days, like in Van Helsing and stuff like that, so on and so forth. But this is like the first movie that did it, and it did it very well. Freaking 80s take on the classic monsters. The Goonies meet the classic monsters, which is what it really feels like. Yeah, there's the cast, you know, there's Rudy, the cool one. There's Horace, the token fat kid, and there's Patrick and Sean, I think, and I forget the other kid's name. I don't remember any of the actors' names that play the kids, but they're all really good. They're all very likable and really memorable, and their knowledge of horror movies and comic books is already off to a great start, despite them being so young. You know, they're obsessed with slasher movies. They got like a Return of the Living Dead poster and a zombie poster in their treehouse, which I'd always wanted to have a treehouse when I was a kid. That would be so awesome. Have a monster club and meet in a treehouse. How cool would that be? So yeah, basically, all these kids find out that monsters actually exist. The prologue shows that, you know, hundreds of years ago, Dracula, played by Duncan Reger, was trying to get like, a magical amulet. And once he gets his hands on said amulet, humanity's pretty much doomed, because it opens up a portal to limbo, and I think it keeps the evil at bay or something. But every 100 years or so, it becomes vulnerable to the forces of evil, something like that. Basically, Dracula's trying to destroy humanity, and he needs this MacGuffin, this object to make that happen. So he enlists the help of a werewolf, a local werewolf, a mummy which escaped from a Egyptian museum exhibit, and a gill man which is living in a nearby lake, I guess, and the Frankenstein monster, which he resurrects using lightning. He finds it in a box. He steals it from a plane, I guess. They're transporting it for some reason, and he resurrects Frankenstein's monster. So there's the 5 of them: Dracula, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, a mummy, and a gill man. Great costumes, great makeup effects. Yeah, they all look great. All the monsters look great. They feel totally legit. They're not done like in a humorous, comedic manner. Like most other movies that would have all these monsters together would probably do it in a humorous way. But they take it very seriously. Dracula is still a menace. He's a force to be reckoned with. He doesn't mess around. Like, he would kill these kids. He wants to kill these kids. He's not like a comedic, clumsy Dracula that you would expect in this type of movie. All the monsters, again, they're taken very seriously and done in a realistic way. They're very menacing. They're definitely a threat. They're not all goofy and silly like you might expect. There is a lot of humor in this movie, but it doesn't really come from the monsters. It comes from the kids trying to figure the monsters out. Like, how do you kill a werewolf besides a silver bullet and other stuff? They always have these debates and stuff in their clubhouse, which are really cool. These kids are just awesome. I would love to join the Monster Squad. When I was little, I wanted to be a part of that. But yeah, I rented this from the video store a long time ago and immediately fell in love with it. I just had a blast with this movie. I had a great time. Again, I love The Goonies. That's one of my favorite movies ever. This is like a horror version of The Goonies. How can you go wrong? An 80s look at the classic Universal monsters. I mean, that's just a winning formula. Fred Decker did a great job. I think he wrote this movie too. He wrote a lot of my favorite movies. It's also co-written by Shane Black, who's actually going to be writing the upcoming Predator movie. I mean, how awesome is that? He wrote a lot of the good movies too. But anyway, Dracula's played by Duncan Reger, who does a great job. He takes it very seriously, as I said. And he's a great Dracula. It kind of made me want to see him in a serious Dracula movie, like a typical straight-up Dracula movie. He was that good. He felt just like the character. He was very intimidating as well. Like, he didn't take any crap. He wanted to kill these kids. He was serious. He was very threatening. Tom Noonan from Manhunter and RoboCop 2, he usually plays a villain. He plays the Frankenstein monster, and in this movie, he's kind of controlled by Dracula. Dracula uses him for his own bidding, but he actually becomes a kind of a hero. He becomes a good guy, and he allies himself with the kids, which is cool. So pretty much Frankenstein joins the Monster Squad. He's part of the Monster Squad. Yes, I said Frankenstein. The doctor named his monster after himself, so no debates in the comments, please, because I just want to talk about the Monster Squad. I don't want to get into the whole name debate, the Frankenstein monster versus Frankenstein, that whole thing that's been going on for years. I don't care enough, I think they're both Frankenstein, so bite me. Anyway, sorry, I'm just kidding. And then the Wolfman, the werewolf in this, the human version is actually played by John Grise, who also played a werewolf-type character in Fright Night Part 2. He was either a werewolf or a vampire that used his wolf form a lot. I think he was supposed to be a werewolf, but they didn't use silver to kill him, and it wasn't a full moon that made him turn. So I don't know. I guess he was a werewolf. Then, of course, there's the Mummy, which is played by that really skinny guy. He always plays like a really skinny, scrawny, like starving character in movies. He's like really thin and kind of tall. He was in X-Men 2. He was in Ace Ventura: When Nature Calls. He played Anthony Diego, who turned into Bane in Batman and Robin. And he was in Seven. He was in Seven. I think he played the gluttony victim, or no. I don't know. He's in a lot of movies, like a character. You've seen him. If you watch movies, you've seen him in a movie. Because he's in a lot of movies. But he plays the Mummy, and the Creature from the Black Lagoon character, the Gill Man, is played by Tom Woodruff Jr., who would go on to play Pumpkinhead the following year. And I think he also played a Xenomorph a few times in the Alien franchise. So yeah, they all do very well. Again, the makeup effects are great. Great special effects. The transformation sequences, when Dracula turns into a bat, or turns from a bat back to vampire form, it looks really good. The werewolf transformation effects are really good. Not as good as The Howling or American Werewolf in London, but still pretty good. And I like how it's the classic type of werewolf. He looks like the Wolfman from the Universal age, in the black and white 40s era, which is cool. He wears clothes and walks on two legs, and his face, you can tell that he's like a man wolf. And Gilman looks really good. He's got really sharp teeth. He looks even scary. They all look more menacing than their Universal counterparts, actually. But yeah, they're very faithful. This movie is very faithful to the lore. It's very faithful to each character. Their background. It does very well. It definitely does them all justice. They look great. They act great. They feel just like the Universal monsters in an '80s movie, which is awesome. It's like the Goonies facing off against the Universal monsters, and and it's all so '80s. I just love it. There's all kinds of Easter eggs for horror fans and people who love this sort of thing, which is too freaking cool, man. Like, you just can't go wrong. It's a winning formula, like I said. But yeah, this movie's a blast. It's a lot of fun. As I said, when I first rented it all those years ago, I immediately fell in love with it. I knew I was in for a treat, and boy, was I right. I like all the kids, the cast, that they're very memorable, very likable, especially Rudy, the token cool guy. He's probably my favorite. He wears the leather jacket and the biker gloves, and, I guess that's not really what's considered cool today. Well, then again, what passes for cool these days is just pathetic. So, people who look like that are way cooler anyway. So, but yeah, all the kids they're awesome. There's fun scenes of them at school, like creating wooden stakes and silver bullets, from silverware and stuff. It's really cool. An awesome song, "Rock Until You Drop" by I think his name is Michael Cimbello. The guy who did "I'm a Maniac on the Floor," that song that everybody knows. Yeah, he did that song, "Rock Until You Drop." Great song, very '80s. Their little montage when they're about to go after the monsters. Yeah, this movie's just a lot of fun. It's just very, very, very entertaining, and you'll never be bored. The Monster Squad, the kids, they also get help from scary German guys, what they call him, an older man. And he actually has a scene that kind of tugs at the heartstrings a little bit. Like, he reveals something. They ask him, they say, they say something like, you know a lot about monsters. He's like, yes, I suppose I do. And then you see the tattoo, the numbers on his arm. You know what that means. So I was like, wow, that was a very deep, emotional scene. I was like, wow, that really got to me, Van Helsing has a brief appearance, which is cool, Dracula's nemesis. So yeah, as I said, they're very faithful, very respectful to all the classic monsters and their various lore, like their various mythology, their backstories, and they do a really good job portraying all of them. As I said, Duncan Reiner is actually one of the best Draculas in a movie that I've ever seen. He does a great job, and Frankenstein becomes a sympathetic character, which, you really root for him. I love how he helps the kids. That was a great idea. Yeah, it's a very good movie, and it really pushes that PG-13 rating. There's a lot of cussing in this, a lot of S words, and some sexual situations you wouldn't quite expect. It's a little more adult than you would think. So this movie is definitely one that can be enjoyed by adults and kids alike. I've actually watched this with kids before, and they had just as great of a time as I did, and vice versa. It can be enjoyed by both in so many ways. Yeah, true treat for horror fans. There's all kinds, as I said, there's all kinds of references that only true fans of scary movies will understand. If you're a fan of the classic Universal monsters, then I think this is the closest I think they've ever come to having them all in one movie, and I think it's the best done. It's the one that's most well done out of all the movies that have attempted to do that sort of thing, for sure. Yeah, I definitely suggest you get this DVD. I think it's actually released on Blu-ray now too, with even way better cover than this one, but not quite as good as this one. Yeah, this DVD is really good because it's loaded with special features. It's got 2 discs. One has deleted scenes and interviews of the cast. There's one really cool one where they interview Tom Noonan, still dressed in his Frankenstein getup, and he's like answering questions as Frankenstein. He said his first movie was in 1931, which of course was the original Frankenstein. That's just so awesome, with Boris Karloff. And they said he was on TV. He was a TV star in the '60s, which is he's probably referring to the Munsters. So I think that was really clever and really funny. It was actually, it was filmed back then. He was still in his full makeup, and he was in character as Frankenstein. Oh, that was really great. That was the best part of the special features. The deleted scenes were pretty good too. Nothing really too. It's usually just like stuff with the main character, the main kid, his parents like fighting and stuff, because his dad's a cop. And he's frequently called in because there's a guy claiming he's a werewolf and a mummy's escaping from an exhibit, all kinds of stuff. And then they learn monsters are real, of course. Dracula's also got some girls. He makes them into vampires. There's some female vampires in here too. There's a little bit of zombies at the very beginning, briefly. He resurrects some corpses or something. So yeah, all kinds of great monsters, great effects, great makeup work. Just Truly great movie. I have nothing negative to say about it. There's really nothing. I don't think there's really any downsides to this. It's a very fun, great time. So, in conclusion, definitely check out Monster Squad. I highly recommend it. I guarantee you will have a blast with this movie because it is just loads of fun. Rent it or buy it. Better yet, just buy it. Buy the damn thing. Invite some friends over, order a pizza, and have at it. It's also fun to watch with kids too. Kids will definitely enjoy it. Maybe not kids are maybe not too young of kids though, because there is some kind of violent scenes and some dark situations. I said some bad language and some sexual humor as well. So it is PG-13. So it does push that. It definitely lives up to its PG-13 rating. It definitely couldn't pass for PG. So yeah, just but watch the movie and get your own idea whether or not it's appropriate to watch with young kids or not. You decide what age kids should start watching this. I think it's definitely a good place to start. If kids are wanting to watch scary movies, if they're first getting into horror, this is a good one to start with. I think along with the classic Universal monsters, which are in this movie, so it's perfect. All right, guys, I'm Hellhound. Check out Monster Squad. Again, I have nothing negative to say about it. I hope I didn't leave anything out, but I think I've just about covered everything. Give it 2 thumbs up. Very good movie, very fun. All right, guys, I'm Hellhound. Thank you for watching. Until next time.